A common challenge that many of my students recovering from musculoskeletal pain experience is sitting. They find it in the beginning literally impossible to sit for even 5 to 10 minutes without triggering some flare up, usually of back pain. If that's something you can relate to, then in this video, I'm going to give you some advice, both in terms of understanding and mindset, and some physical changes that you can make that will help you move toward a point where you can sit for long, extended periods of time, really without any pain at all. The first realization that you need to have is that the activity of sitting isn't inherently in and of itself causative in pain. Let me give you 3 examples of activities that certain people do for long extended periods of time, even in what physiotherapy establishment would call bad posture, without getting pain. The first one is chess. These days, when players play over the board classical chess, the games can go up to 5 to, I would estimate, 7.5 hours. And they just sit there in this kind of like leaned forward posture, and they don't get pain. And this kind of posture, this slumped posture, that's like a physiotherapist's nightmare, isn't it? The second one is cycling. Cyclists, cycle really long distances, and they're even using their legs extremely, vigorously, and they are totally leaned over the bike. Like, if you looked at that posture of their back, you would think, well, if sitting causes pain, then that must be the most pain-inducing activity of all time. And yet, there's no way they're experiencing pain, because couldn't do that activity like that if it did cause pain. And the third one is rowing. Rowers sit, like with their legs semi-outstretched in front of them, and they're constantly leaning forward and pulling with their back. And yet, certainly, these rowers are not experiencing pain, otherwise they couldn't have long careers, could they? The issue is not the sitting, but more so the fear of sitting. Most of my students and most people on a pain recovery journey started that journey in the physiotherapy establishment realm, and they were probably told by a physiotherapist or chiropractor or other, or they just looked it up online. And they were told that sitting causes pain. Not just pain, but sitting can actually cause an injury. I've had one of my students tell me that they started to believe that, their spine is being compressed, and at any moment a disc could just go, right? They could herniate or have a slipped disc from sitting. And this fear that pain is going to be caused by sitting, or an injury is going to be experienced, causes you and everyone with this fear to brace themselves, to keep in a still position, and to learn things like what is the good posture for sitting, and then to try to assume that straight spine posture and sit there. However, this bracing, this fearsome bracing and good posture holding is far more causative in pain than the sitting, which doesn't really in itself cause pain at all. So one of the first things that you can do is bring that knowledge into your sitting. Okay, next time you're sitting, and you may want to just go sit down right now if you're not already, and just sit there and let that truth integrate into your being. Just put your mind on chess players, put your mind on cyclists, put your mind on rowers, put your mind on any activity that that people do for a very long period of time without getting pain. Okay, and just go, well, they can do it. What's so special about them? And what's so special about them is they never really had a fear of sitting. They never thought about it in their life. They never had a conflict over it. They never had pain, and they just carry on doing these activities like a chess player, just sitting over the board, looking like that in this slump posture. Now, don't even give it a second thought. Okay? So when you're doing that, just watch and see if you can use that empowering wisdom to kind of like combat your fear of sitting. And then watch as your fear of sitting goes down, your pain while sitting also goes down. Your fear goes down, your bracing goes down, your need to worry about a good posture goes down, your pain will go down next. The next realization is it's more about how you feel about what you're doing while you're sitting. For example, if you're just like sitting with your friends, just relaxed, with nothing to do, no rush whatsoever, you probably notice that sitting doesn't hurt so much. Like sitting while you're eating breakfast or something like that. It's probably far more relaxed than if, for example, you're sitting at the computer doing important work that someone needs very soon from you, and you're also worried about whether they're going to criticize you. Another example is if you hate what you're doing. If you've found yourself in a field of study or a career or something like that, and you just dread doing it, and you look at what you're doing, just like, then you're probably going to get pain while you're sitting, because that those bad feelings are just being just caked into your body. Right? They're not going anywhere. All right, if you sit for long periods of time just doing something that makes you go without, getting up and having your body kind of like flow around, right? Then all those bad feelings are just going to go bleh. Okay? Just small examples like staying up late, finishing something that takes a really long time. These kind of activities, when there's some sort of emotional factor to it, that's where it becomes a problem. Now, the recommendation to solve that problem is, one, to see if you can feel better about what you're doing ahead of doing the activity. All right? So instead of just sitting right down and just going straight into, oh no, dread, hatred, frustration, right? Sit down and, go to start the activity and then just pause and just kind of like process the emotions first, right? Just let those emotions be felt, let them wash over you, fully experience them, see if you can just release those emotions, right? And only when you kind of like come to some sort of level of acceptance and peace with what you're doing, then proceed with the activity. Of course, there are also many, self-development, personal development techniques that you can do to just feel better about what you're doing. For example, something like neurolinguistic programming. They have concepts like reframing, where you just learn to see what you're doing in a different way. You can look up people who teach concepts like this, like Anthony Robbins. Just empowering mental ways of looking at the world that'll just help you feel better about what you're doing. The next thing you can do to deal with that issue of not liking what you're doing, and this is a real challenge I've noticed for some of my students, is to not do that activity. Now, that's a challenge because sometimes people have wound up in like a career that they depend on but don't like, all right? Or some sort of business venture that is bringing them money, but they don't feel ethically good about it or something like that. So you can really find yourself in a tough situation. And even though these activities might be bringing you benefit, you might be sitting there going, well, I have to do this because otherwise this problem's going to happen. Or I have to do this because I got to get that money so that I can get that thing that I want. And I really don't want to not have that because then my life would not be good, all right? So sometimes it's bringing you benefits, but you literally have to let them go. you have to ask yourself, like, what is important here? Because if you achieve something or get something material, some success or something like that, but you have pain, well, it's not very enjoyable. Now, I also told you that there would be some physical adjustments and advice that you can make. And that really comes down to simply not obsessing over this good posture idea. That is like a kind of like a myth of the physiotherapy establishment, that if you have pain, you need to hold yourself in certain non-pain causing positions. Okay. I did that for 12 years. Okay. It doesn't work. I've seen students try. And it's only when you let go of all that bracing and just assume a relaxed position. Just think about it. Think about how chess players sit. They don't sit like this. I am sitting and playing chess. They just relax like this. And that's all you need to do as well. And you don't need to do any sort of like special posture position. Just relax. Now, the courses of mine that I recommend to help you really integrate this stuff would be the Back Pain Miracle and Conscious Stretching. If you're watching on one of the social media platforms, just click whatever link is available to you to go through to my website. It'll be in the description below, that kind of thing, and check that out. And if you're watching on my website, then all you need to do is click the Ascend button at the bottom right of this video, and those courses will immediately show. Just get started with those. They're really fantastic courses that have been sold all over the world, over 50 countries, thousands and thousands and thousands of students, and just glowing testimonials everywhere. So really going to help you a lot in your pain recovery journey. So much more than this physiotherapy establishment approach. Okay, any questions, please post them, and look forward to seeing you in the next video.